Hey, good evening. Good evening. Welcome to the Soap Channel. Happy holiday season to all of you. Uh, I'm so grateful and so thankful that God has placed certain people in my life. I'm so glad for you. Those are people who are my close friends and people that I don't even know that's viewed the channel. Thank you all so much for logging in. I just wanted to say happy holidays to you all. I hope you and your family have a great holiday season and spread as much love and giving and peace and joy as you can. Excuse me. Uh, I just wanted to briefly talk about something as it relates to voting and dealing with God. Obviously, this is a very touchy subject, right? It's a very touchy subject in this day and age, and um, you just, as I always say in a lot of my videos, whatever, there's a lot of things you just can't worry about, right? But the reason I'm talking about this particularly is because of something that a family member of mine sent to me, right? And so this is something that came from my aunt, and we've been kind of going back and forth about certain things or whatever she's studying and so forth and so on. And so I like to elaborate on what it is that she mentioned and then let you see what I responded to her about. Okay, or what did I respond to her and said in reference to what she stated. Okay, so um, this is going to be talking about voting and talking about things of God related to voting. All right, or at least something thereabout based on the text messages. But you can kind of get an idea on where I'm going, right? With some of this stuff once I start reading it to you. So let's dive right into it. Okay, this is going to be one of the more brief videos that I typically usually don't do. So anyway, let's talk. Let's get right into it. So she sends me a text message, and I hope she doesn't mind. I'm reading this, but it's all for the glory of God. And us getting understanding, and all of us trying to, just do better and get better, right? When it comes to God. So it says, good evening. She says she was just studying the Word, and this came to her spirit. All right. Now, my auntie always say, something came to my spirit, and man, I just, now granted, I don't know. Maybe something did come to her spirit, whatever the case may be. With my auntie, she's done that for years, and she'll say stuff like that. Man, I felt that thing in my spirit. And I don't know. For all I know, maybe she did feel it in her spirit, or maybe God did, speak to her spirit. I'm not absolutely sure, but I'm just let you know. So it says, this word, which while she was studying, came to my spirit strong. She says, and she says, and I know it is God. She said, we as a people go and vote, and nothing has happened in 400 years. She says, we vote to look for man to change it, is what she's saying. I'm assuming that she means to change things. She says, but I thank God for this. I did hear, this is something that I guess she's following up saying in what she heard, all right, or she read, because she says, but I thank God for this. I did hear, if my people shall come by my name, right, and humble themselves and seek my face and turn from their evil, wicked ways and seek God, face then he will hear from heaven and heal our land. She said, man, this is powerful. She said, he didn't say vote and it will be all right, because of a lie man will tell. All right, so I'm assuming based on how she's typing this thing up here in text message, right? She's trying to say that, man will lie or whatever. So God didn't say vote or whatever the case may be, because man will lie to you, and these people, politicians or whatever the case may be, they'll lie, maybe lions or liars or whatever the case may be, right? She said, man, this is powerful. He didn't say vote and it will be all right, because of a lie man will tell. He said, the arms of the flesh will fail you. She said, she says the arm of the flesh will fail you. So I understand that part well. She's talking about man, the arms of the flesh will fail you every time, She said, I just had to share that with you. I love you. And so just for the dialogue's sake, right, for the dialogue purposes, I responded back. Okay. And I hope you can get this in your spirit. Comment, share, like, don't forget to subscribe. Let's talk about these things, right? All right, because we're all learning, but this is my viewpoint and kind of what God is saying about some of these things, I believe. So I respond back and I say, hey, auntie. I said, yes, he never said vote, nor did he say not to vote. I said, the fact of the matter is to simply not trust into man for anything. I say, nevertheless, officials are put in place. And I say, and how are they put in place in our society? Well, they're put in place by us voting. I said, now whether your candidate gets in or not, it's all ordered by God. And you simply have to trust that God will allow whoever he wants to fulfill his will or purpose. I said, remember in Babylon, all right, and I forget which chapter it is and which scripture it is, but in my reading, in Babylon, the Israelites, they had been exiled into Babylon to this crazy king or whatever, right? And that crazy king, was a ruler over God's people. What did that mean? God was trying to get his people to turn back to him. Because God knew the person was crazy, but God used him. God used the king of Babylon. Look it up in the scriptures, all right? If you just type in Google or Babylon or king of Babylon who suppresses the Israelites, Hebrews, etc., look at that and you can see in the story how God uses that man or that king during that time to turn his people back to him. I go on and I say, remember in Babylon, God allowed that crazy king to rule, but it was for his purpose to turn the Israelites back to him. Then I continue on by saying, so it's not the vote, right? I'd say it's where your focus is. So indeed, make your vote. Make your vote. But don't be concerned or get caught up or wrapped up in who's in power and who's not in power. For it is all God's will. And no matter, follow where I'm going with this here, and no matter who is in the seat of authority or who's in power or who's in the White House or who's in Congress, I say to her, and no matter who's in there, God is still the true authority. And he has all power. All right? Do you get that? He is the one who has the true authority and has all power. Let me confirm that, because in the scriptures also, and I tell her this in the scriptures, I said, remember, let me confirm what I just said. I tell her, I said, remember, the word also says this. It says, let every person be subject to the governing authorities. It says, for there is no authority except from God. And those that exist have been instituted by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authorities and what God has appointed. And those who will resist will incur judgment. Do you understand? I'm not done here, but do you understand that? See, the people who are in place, right? We vote, we do all these things or whatever the case may be. But we got to understand that God is still the one who's in authority. authority. God is still the one who's in control. Whether it's Trump who's in there, whether it's Obama who's in there, whether it's Bush who's in there, it could be your auntie in there, your grandma in there. It don't matter, because God is still the true authority. And he may use whoever that is to have his purpose and or will done. I continue on to say to her, God has appointed those, and those who resist will incur judgment. For the rulers are not a terror to good conduct, but to bad. All right? It says, you will have no fear. It says, would you have no fear of the one who is in authority? What is God saying? All of the laws that we typically see, right? Although we have this gentrification and all these other different things, whatever the case may be, that's another story, whatever the case may be. But the law in general, or certain laws in general, is to prevent you from doing bad things. All right? No stealing. All right? No killing of another man. You got to obey the traffic laws. All these things are put in place so, you don't get outside of the line. Well, this is God's authority, all right? And these people are put in place who have created a lot of these things, right? But listen to this. It says, would you have no fear of the one who's in authority? It says, then do what is good. Basically, God is telling you, then just do what's good. Do what's right. You don't have to worry about none of that stuff. You won't have to worry about none of it. Do right. Buy it. Okay? Do what is good. And you will receive his approval, for he is God's servant for your good. Let me say that again. Then do what is good, and you will receive his approval, for he is God's servant for your good. In other words, just do right. Because if you're doing right, in most cases that, you will be all right when it comes down to certain things. Now, of course, there are certain times where people are doing wrong or whatever, right? Who's in power and who's authority or whatever. But you got to let God deal with that. Because that's not, he'll handle that, right? Because you got to remember now, God says vengeance is mine. So that's why I always say you can't worry about certain things, because at the end of the day, God is always in control. He's never out of control. All right? It says, then do what is good, and you will receive his approval, for he is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain. For he is the servant of God, an avenger who carries out God's wrath on the wrongdoer. Okay? All right? Therefore, one must be in subjection to only to avoid God's wrath, but also for the sake of consciences. Okay? So you got to go ahead and you just do right about these laws and so forth and so on, because God has appointed these people to allow these people to be appointed to have certain things or have certain governing authorities or whatever. But at the end of the day, as I said earlier, it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, God is the true authority. He is the one that's in total control and the one that's in power. So let's not forget that. Let's not forget that. All right? We can't worry about this, that, and the other. Yes, go out and vote, right? Whether you're a Republican, whether you're a Democrat, it's all chaotic down there anyway. We got somebody talking about, werewolves and vampires and all that kind of stuff, right? Who talks like that, right? Now, obviously, I don't want to sway nobody from one way or the other way, but that's funny to me, I hear that stuff, you know what I'm saying? And I just kind of laugh about that because those things are funny to me, But I also laugh because I know in my heart that God is still in control and he is the true authority. I know one thing. I'm tired of all these commercials. I'm tired of all these doggone phone texts coming to my phone. You know, one phone text would say, press play or hit text stop or whatever. For what? Because all it's going to do is another number going to come up and it's going to come to your phone. I'll just be so glad when it's over. So all this stuff and this mail, all this vote mail stuff, Warnoff this and Herschel Walker that and all this stuff. It's just, it's just too much. But at the same time, guess what? You can't worry about it, right? You can't get so caught up into the foolishness. You can't get caught up into the worldly things that are worldly. You got to do what? As I always say, you got to keep your mind and focus on not the problem. You have to keep your mind on the problem solver. And ain't nobody solving the problem like God can solve it. So we got to turn back to him. It goes all the way back to him again. It always goes back to God. All right? So let's keep those things in mind. No, I'm not going to tell you not to vote because there's reasons why, Remember, in the Bible or in the Word or the Scriptures says that everything works for the will of God. Everything works for the will of God. Those people in Babylonian who had done exile, who had the Israelites in exile, those people had to turn back to God. They was oppressing those people. But God used that crazy king during that time, right? So, I just wanted to say that. Once again, this is the Soak Channel. That's SOAK, Son of a King, Son of the Most High God. Ain't you glad today that you're here? Ain't you glad today that God has blessed you to be alive? Ain't you glad that you've made it to another holiday season? We got to remember too also, this is another part of the season where a lot of people is depressed, right? A lot of depression going on. Some people, family members are no longer here. Some people have just lost their family members. So let's keep those people in mind. Let's keep the world in prayer. All right. And for those who have lost someone, during this is usually a hard time for me. During this the month of December also. This is a month that my father passed away. But I am learning to count it all as joy. Well, Counsel, how could you say that? You know what I'm saying? How could you say that? Count it all as joy. Because if my father, if he was a righteous man, and I'm getting ready to close here. If he was a righteous man, and my older age now, I'm thankful because I got an opportunity to, right, spend time with him as a young man. He died when I was 13. But I am so thankful that God, knowing who he is now, or getting a better understanding on who he is now, right? I still don't know everything about God, and I never will know everything about God. But I'm searching him out. And I understand now that I need to be thankful for the time that I did have with him. I need to be thankful that I didn't have a father who abandoned me. I need to be thankful that the father that God chose to give me provided food for me, provided clothes for me, provided a roof for me, provided me discipline. I need to be thankful for that. And I'm so thankful. And I pray that my father's works have gotten him to the kingdom. And I pray this for you all as well. I don't know what's going on in your family. I don't know what trials or tribulations that you have gone through. I don't know who you're upset with in your family. I don't know who you can't stand and so forth and so on. I don't know who's done you wrong in your friendships, in your life, or whatever the case may be. But my God and my Father have told me, from what I have been reading and what I have been learning, is to count it all as joy. Count it all as joy. And so that's what I'm working on, and that's what I'm trying to do, is to count it all joy. Because there are so many people that I've seen in situations that are so much worse than my situation. So I don't have no business complaining about nothing. I just don't. I just don't have no business complaining about nothing. So what's that mean? That means I'm so glad. I am so glad. You and me probably should have been dead a long time ago. Think about it. When you look back and think about all the things that you've been through, some of the things that you've done when you were younger, some of the things that you've done when you was older, some of the things that you're doing right now, you probably should have been dead. But guess what? God showed us mercy, favor, and grace. And I'm so thankful for that love, mercy, and grace. And I'm so glad that He decided to allow His Son to come and die for me. Because that's a love that I'll never understand. How many of you all will give your child up in order to save others? Go ahead and be honest with yourself. None of us would. I often try to put myself in those situations biblically when I hear and read some of these stories and say, I wonder what I would have done. I wouldn't have done what they did. I haven't learned that. I haven't gotten that understanding. I don't know what that was like for Abraham to give when God spoke to him about sacrificing his son. I don't know what that. So I can't say what I would have done. I would think that I wouldn't have done it. I can think that, or like to think that I would have, but I don't know. In my mind, this little frivolous mind, I probably wouldn't have done it. Only God knows. I say that, guys, I don't mean to keep going on, but just be thankful. Let's try to get closer to God in everything that we do. Pray in all things. Pray in all things. When you're worried about something, pray for the people who may not even like you. Just pray for them. God says, vengeance is mine, says the Lord. Quit judging people. Whatever it is that they're doing, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what nobody else is doing. You need to get yourself right with God, because at the end of the day, people say stuff like, well, why, they doing this and the LGBT is doing that and this person doing that. You can't worry about that. You just have to love people wherever they are, because you're not the judge. We're not the judge. God said that I am the judge. All things will be judged by God. And if that is the case, that means you're not to judge. You remember, Jesus said that let he who have not sinned cast the first stone. Have you not sinned? Yeah, right. We've all sinned. But at the end of the day, God is the true judge. Listen, guys, I'm going to go ahead and cut it here. All right, once again, I went over. This is the Soul Channel. Hey, guys, I hope you have a great holiday. I will be posting my blessing, the blessing and giving, and what a great time to be doing it, because we're in the holiday season month, right? So I will follow up with my blessing and giving. So, hey, don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment, right? Now, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you like a comment or whatever the case may be, because I'm not doing this here for, tons of likes and things of that nature, right? But if you do, then great, you know what I mean? This is all for the kingdom. I can't do it for the sheer fact of just, oh, I need to get as many likes as I can, or I need to get as many subscribers as I can. No, if I only reach one person on this channel, then that means my life would have been worth living. So, to all my family members, all my friends, all right, guys, have a great holiday season. Hey, this is the Soul Channel. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep striving for God, all right, and continue to love as much as you can, for God is love. We'll see you next time. Stay tuned for the Blessing and Giving Part 4, I think that we're on. And hey, take care of yourselves and each other. Peace.